Good morning, everyone. My name is Camille Garcia, Procurement Specialist of the Procurement Division for the Community Development Block Grant CDBG-DR program. In this pre-proposal meeting, we are going to explain the process for the CDBG-MIT-RFP-2022-02, the request for proposal for oversight management services for Infra-MIT. I would like to introduce you our team from PRDOH. Along with me is Kerenly Ayala Baez, Technical Specialist, Ruth Hernandez Mendez, Technical Specialist, Ms. Shirley Biriel Osorio, Director of the Infrastructure Program Management, Agustin Rodriguez Rosao, Manager for Infrastructure, and Ivana Harrington from the Federal Compliance Area. Any questions submitted in this meeting will be answered in writing and will be published in addendum. Any information provided in this meeting does not change the terms and conditions established on this request for proposal instructions. All procurement process shall be conducted in accordance with terms and conditions established in the procurement manual and contractual requirements to guarantee full and open competition or fair treatment of all persons and entities involved in each procurement process. The procurement manual is available at our webpage, www.cdbg-dr.gov, and is incorporated by reference and made an integral part of this RFP. Nothing said in this pre-proposal meeting will change any of the terms and conditions of the RFP except a written amendment to a solicitation issued throughout an addendum. Now we're gonna let the team from Infrastructure Department to explain the scope of service.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shirley Biriel. I'm the Director for the Infrastructure Program Management for both CDBG-DR and CDBG-MIT. We will be discussing the strategies of the infrastructure programs under the mitigation grant. First, we will provide a summary of the main strategy and then in detail with the proposal to implement each program under the infrastructure and multi-sector portfolio. The CDBG-MIT Federal Register requires that PRDOH, that 50% of the grant be disbursed on eligible activities within the first 6 years of execution of the grant agreement by HUD and 100% of the grant within 12 years thereafter to the execution of the grant agreement. Since Vivienda signed the CDBG-MIT grant agreement in May 2021, the 6-year deadline will be by May 2027, and the 12-year deadline will be May 2033. These requirements directly affect our strategy in the project selection process under the infrastructure programs. This budget breakdown presents the programs under the infrastructure and multi-sector portfolio, which includes the infrastructure program and its 2 reserves, as well as the IPG-MIT program, which is also expected to be a program that makes infrastructure projects viable. The mitigation funds. According to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, mitigation funds must promote high impact projects. We should also focus on repetitive loss of property and critical infrastructure. We must develop capacity to analyze disaster risks and update mitigation plans. Also reduce risks to community lifelines and maximize the impact of available funds by promoting the use of other funds such as public-private partnerships and coordination with other federal programs. Now we're gonna discuss covered projects and BCI guidelines and what type of project does that applies. Covered projects is a hot definition that distinguishes those projects that meet 3 criteria. They has to be an infrastructure project with a total cost of 100 million or more. And the project must also have 50 million or more on CDBG funding, which includes both MIT, DR, or regular CDBG. Projects that meet this definition have additional requirements. The benefits must be demonstrated through a cost-benefit analysis. The recommended method to be used or implemented for this requirement is the FEMA BCA in most cases. Must be included also in a substantial amendment action plan defined as a covered project, and the substantial amendment also require an additional 30-day public comment period. In the determination of whether or not a project is cost effective is determined by a cost-benefit analysis. The benefits offered by the projects are quantified and compared with its costs. All benefits are added together and divided by all costs. This is known as the benefits cost ratio. And a project is considered cost effective if it is a benefit cost ratio or a BCR equal to or greater than 1. So I'm gonna pass it to Agustin Rodriguez. He's now gonna be explaining the specific set aside and the scope of services.
Good morning, everyone. Related to the Infra-MIT allocation, we have to define 2 different strategies, main strategies to be implemented. First, we have the strategic method that will identify and directly select specific transformative and large-scale projects associated with particular or specific entities or applicants, and a competitive methodology that will promote locally driven solutions for risk reduction, and this will involve wider participation of different applicants under the Infra-MIT allocation. These 2 methodologies have preliminarily assigned 50% of the Infra-MIT allocations. The proposed budget breakdown for the Infra-MIT programs subject to services under this RFP include the Infra-MIT program with approximately $2.5 billion in funding, from which $500 million are assigned for activity delivery, administrative, and planning costs. And the 50% of the remaining allocation is assigned for strategic projects, and the other 50%, nearly $1 billion, are assigned to application projects or the competitive methodology. For the infra health set aside, CDBG-MIT has allocated $1 billion from which 200 million are assigned for activity delivery, administrative and planning costs, and for strategic and competitive projects, the remaining $800 million. The main goals for the strategic projects under the direct selection methodology should be funding large-scale redevelopment projects that will benefit different cascading lifelines during their and after their development. Those selected projects shall mitigate the most risk, addressing the greatest amount of population in the most cost-effective manner. And these strategic projects should support large-scale transformative mitigation initiatives, one of the main goals of the creating resiliency for the island. Going directly to the Oversight Management Services overview, general aspects of these services, some general considerations that proposals shall familiarize with the CDBG-MIT action plan and any other available documents related to the CDBG-MIT implementation in Puerto Rico. Proposals shall also familiarize with information regarding general HOT requirements, including HOT national objectives, HOT eligible activities, HOT eligible entities, and HOT specific and federal compliance requirements applicable to CDBG funding in an overall manner, including CDBG-MIT. In terms of awarding and contracting services after the procurement process has been completed, award may be done to one or more oversight managers as PRDOH may determine reasonable or necessary. And oversight managers may be assigned to regions, subrecipients, or a combined arrangement. Again, as PRDOH determines reasonable and effective for the implementation of the program. Related to the contract term, the base contract term will be 3 years with 2 optional 1-year extensions. That will be 2 individual extensions for 1 year as determined by PRDOH and agreed upon with the awarded proposers. The award of the proposal may be canceled at any time by PRDOH. PRDOH is not obligated to accept any proposal submitted. And services are again subject to HOT funding availability for the projects or the program's implementation. You'll see an overall program structure for the CDBG-MIT infra sector and Infra-MIT programs. Have the Department of Housing as the grantee. There's a grant manager that assists PRDOH in the implementation of the grant. There will be then an oversight manager for which services are being procured that will oversee subrecipients, which will have different needs and steps toward development projects, including architectural and engineering services, environmental reviews, inspection, and construction. Related to staff requirements under this Oversight Management Services RFP, we have 2 main categories. We have key staff that must be ready to begin working within 2 weeks after contract execution as per identified in the scope of services. Project staff, which are positions to be contracted on an as needed basis, depending on project implementation and PRDOH necessity. some additional considerations related to staffing. Specified on the scope of services, resources may be required to be working locally in Puerto Rico, and special services staff will be evaluated, approved, and authorized on an as-needed basis. Looking at the oversight manager structure, under respective positions and the staff resources required under this RFP, we have the key staff that includes the program manager, regulatory compliance officer, deputy program manager, outreach and public relations coordinator, program coordinator, and project manager. Under the project staff team, we have the project assistant, construction oversight manager, and environmental professional. And for the special services staff or as needed staff, we have a legal compliance officer, a subject matter expert, and the environmental professional. You know where the tasks required under the scope of services document of this RFP. Under task number 1, we have 6 subtasks, including outreach and program presentations and technical assistance under 1.1, project application support on the 1.2, project application review on the 1.3, subrecipient capacity assessment support on the 1.4, benefit cost analysis or BCA support in the 1.5, and some recipient agreement and SRA amendments under 1.6. Under task 2, we have in that order from 2.1 through 2.7, project plan review, project plan development support, third-party cost estimator support, project support, subrecipients procurement process support, project design development support, and environmental process support. Under task 3, we have project implementation and construction, and under task 4, we have project closeout. It's always refer to the scope of services document included under the RFP for the specifics. So how is the proposal being presented in terms of cost? Well, the RFP package includes the price form, for which we have an extract of it on your screen. This form includes a breakdown of the staff resource positions under classification between key staff and project staff, and mainly the hourly rates and estimated monthly cost for each position. The total proposal cost represents the potential total cost for the services requested with a special services allowance allocation determined by the PRDOH. All price forms must be completed. Price forms fields left in blank will be considered as zero cost services. Under the cost form, they require information on the breakdown or a basic description of the information included. We first have a position column which describes the staff position type and name. Column A, the quantity of staff resources considered by the PRDOH to provide the services required during the standard contract term. This column A does not require any input from the proposer. Column B includes the maximum hours allowed for each staff resource per month. This column does not require input from the proposer. Column C, which is described as rate per hour, requires the proposer to include the hourly rate for each staff resource. Column D, identified as estimated monthly cost per position, requires the proposer to include the calculated estimated cost per staff resource based on the proposed hourly rate and the maximum hours defined under column B. This applies for both key staff and project staff. Going to the monthly subtotal row, this one requires the proposer to include the monthly subtotal of all the staff resources combined. Row I, after that, requires the proposer to include the resulting calculation from multiplying the monthly subtotal by 36, representing the quantity of months for which the services are required. And the last row, the total proposal cost, requires the proposer to input the same numbers as in row I, which is the resulting proposal cost. Cost form, or the price form, includes various footnotes that are important for proposers to review. Note number 1, related to the estimated quantity of resources, in general establishes that estimated quantity should not be considered as a cap for staff resources. This may be modified as determined by the PRDOH. Note 2 refers to maximum hours per month per resource, stated that it should not be interpreted as a cap on the allowed level of effort per position. Note number 3, related to rate per hour, states that the rate per hour presented by the proposals should include overhead, profit, royalties, reimbursement, travel, fringe benefits, taxes, and any other fees or administrative costs applicable to the services. Note 4, related to the estimated monthly cost per position, should not be interpreted as a cap on the allowed billing per position. Note number 5, monthly subtotal. An individual position may invoice for an amount greater than that established in the estimated monthly cost per position, but the total invoice for the group may not exceed the monthly subtotal. And note number 6 establishes that PRDOH reserves the right to award to one or more proposers. For the specific text and additional details, please refer to the price form and the RFP documents. For any increase up to this point, you may submit electronic communication or email to the CDBG-DR procurement@vivienda.pr.gov for questions or concerns, or follow the specific instructions established in this RFP. That's the part from the Infra-MIT program. We will continue with the credit meeting.
Good morning. The RFP documents are available for download at the CDBG-DR website. Important dates for this RFP are the following: submission of questions and requests for clarifications on or before June 8, 2022. Responses to questions and requests for clarifications on June 15, 2022. Proposals due date from June 27, 2022 at 9:30 a.m. up to on or before June 29, 2022 at 4:30 p.m. Submissions of inquiries and addenda. Each prospective proposer shall submit all questions in writing on or before June 8, 2022 to the CDBG-DR mailing address. Responses to all responders' questions will be answered by Addenda and will be posted on the CDBG-DR website. All procurement documents pertaining to the procurement process, including Addenda issued by the PRDOH, are and will be available for download at the CDBG-DR website. All prospective proposers must monitor the CDBG-DR website to retrieve Addenda, if any, issued for this procurement process. Now, Karen Ayala We'll continue with the proposal electronic submission.
Thank you, Ruth. We're going to talk about the proposal electronic submissions. Proposals are to be submitted on the proposal due date stated in section 4.3 of the RFP. Proposal responses to the RFP submitted after the prescribed deadline will not be allowed. Submissions of responses to the RFP will only be accepted by electronic means. Proposers are advised that the PRDOH will neither require nor accept physical proposal submissions. If proposals are submitted in both electronic and in paper format, the PRDOH will only consider the electronic format for the evaluation. Proposer will receive access to submit the electronic proposal after the registration process is completed through the CDBG-DR website. At the scheduled due date for electronic proposal submissions, a link button will be enabled to provide access to the registration form. Complete all the required fields in the form. Proposal must be submitted within the closing date and time for proposal as established in section 4.3 of this RFP. If the CDBG website fails during the submission period on or before the scheduled time deadline, the PRDOH will provide instructions via addendum to the proposers. Let's take a moment and talk about the evaluation criteria for this RFP. An evaluation committee will evaluate the responsive proposals. The proposals should be responsive in all material aspects to enable the evaluation in accordance with the following criteria: qualifications and experience from the proposer to successfully perform the services required in this RFP, as evidenced by the successful implementation of similar programs in large, complex public organizations, preferably state government and municipalities. Qualifications and specialized experience of the proposed ski staff, as evidenced by relevant experience to the role proposed. Quality of the proposed approach, including implementation schedule and understanding of the PRDOH goals. Capacity of the proposer to successfully perform the services within the required time frame. Financial stability of the proposer to support the performance of services. Some of the documents are year-end audited, reviewed, or compiled financial statements for the most recent 2 years issued by the certified public accountant and prepared in accordance with the U.S. Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, U.S. GAAP. Year-to-date information, most recent interim year-to-date financial statements for a period ending no later than 90 days before the proposal submission date, and a line of credit, available cash balances, or a combination thereof of a minimum of $1,087,000. Other criteria considered are the following: level, quality, and relevancy of proposed participation by Section 3 business concern and MBE, WBE registered Puerto Rico businesses. Price proposal, reasonableness of overall price, allocation of effort, and overall value offered. Also take into account that the proposers and first-tier subcontractor must be registered in the System of Award Management, SAM, at the time of the proposal submission, or initiate the registration process right after the proposal submission. For more information about the System of Award Management, go to their website that is presented in this presentation. There is no registration fee to create or renew, update your organization information on SAM, and awards will only be issued to entities that are cleared and not ineligible for award of a contract due to suspension, debarment, or HUD-imposed limited denial of participation. Now we will have a presentation from Senior Compliance Consultant Ivana Harrington for an introduction of federal civil rights compliance and labor standards PRDOH pre-submission training.
Thank you, everybody. We're going to be sharing our presentation on the screen in just a second.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the space to present compliance and labor standards requirements. This presentation is prepared in English. However, should anyone need this presentation in Spanish, you can request using the protocols for this RFP. I am representing the Department of Housing Federal Compliance team led by Maria del Carmen Figueroa. Today, we will discuss as part of our agenda an overview of compliance roles and responsibilities. We will also cover some tools that are available online. We will also talk about documenting efforts, taking advantage of training that's made available, and reporting requirements, as well as frequently asked questions. In this presentation, we will be discussing Section 3 training, hiring, and contracting opportunities, minority and women-owned business participation, and fair housing and equal opportunity. Contractors or subrecipients using CDBG-DR or CDBG-MIT funding have certain roles and responsibilities. These include assigning staff who will attend the day-to-day implementation of federal compliance requirements, attending trainings and workshops, using tools and templates, executing the activities, and completing documentation that's required. You can also participate in Department of Housing sponsored technical assistance sessions. You must complete quarterly reporting and comply with the reporting requirements. The procurement package contains language that offers contractors the ability to seek bonus points. Please remember to use the references and the templates that are made available and that we will be discussing in this presentation. Proposers seeking Section 3 bonus points should provide their self-certifications and sufficient evidence for how they qualify as a Section 3 business. The Department of Housing offers a template on their website. Proposers who are seeking MBE or WBE bonus points should provide a copy of their MWBE certification to provide evidence of this status. The certificates provided should show the dates and indicate that they are currently active. The procurement package contains sections that speak to the applicability and the requirements for MWBE. Within those sections, you will find helpful links to online resources that are made available, such as the policy guide. Procurement packages also contain language for Section 3 under 24 CFR 75. Although for this particular procurement, the contractor awarded will not need to comply with Section 3. However, you may find the information useful if you are seeking to prove Section 3 status to earn potential bonus points. Let's talk about Section 3. Section 3 is a federal requirement from the Housing and Urban Development Act of 1968. This requirement states that we should provide to the greatest extent feasible job training, employment, contracting, and other economic opportunities generated by this HUD financial assistance to be directed to low and very low-income persons and businesses. The Department of Housing makes available a Section 3 policy guide on their website, both in English and in Spanish. Contractors must read and implement activities as applicable and necessary. They also are responsible for their subcontractors assuring that benchmarks are met. For Section 3 projects, 24 CFR 75 has established the following benchmarks. 25% of the total labor hours for a project should be work hours of Section 3 workers. And from that 25%, 5% of the total labor hours should be work hours of targeted Section 3 workers. Let's talk about the definition of a Section 3 business. A Section 3 business refers to a business concern meeting at least one of the following criteria, which is documented within the last 6 months. The business is at least 51% owned and controlled by low or very low income persons. It could also be a business that has at least 51% ownership and controlled by a public housing resident or residents who currently live in Section 8 assisted housing. It could also be a business that has over 75% of the labor hours performed for that business over the prior 3-month period by Section 3 workers. In this slide, we're going to look at the definition of a Section 3 worker. A Section 3 worker can be any worker who fits or, when hired within the last 5 years, fit at least one of the following categories. The worker's income for the previous or annualized calendar year is below the income limit established by HUD. It could also be a worker who is employed by a Section 3 business concern. Or the worker is a youth build participant. Now let's talk about what a targeted Section 3 worker is. A Section 3 targeted worker for community development financial assistance projects is a person who is employed by a Section 3 business. It could also be a person who currently fits or when hired fit at least one of the following categories as documented within the past 5 years. Someone living within the service area or the neighborhood of the project as defined in 24 CFR 75.5 or a youth build participant. The neighborhood or service area for a targeted Section 3 worker is that in which you can find at least 5,000 persons within a 1-mile radius of the project. If there are less than 5,000 persons within that 1-mile radius, you can expand that radius until you have 5,000 persons around the Section 3 covered project site. Each year, HUD releases new income limits. These income limits typically come out around April. The latest income limits for 2022 are made available on the slide. The Department of Housing has created various forms for helping maintain compliance. There is a Section 3 plan that can be used by contractors or subrecipients. There are also Section 3 self-certification forms. And finally, there is a form to help you document your efforts. Let's take a closer look at your Section 3 plan. This document helps you identify new hiring needs, subcontracting needs. It helps you plan your outreach efforts and assists your coordinators in identifying the day-to-day activities. It helps you define compliant procedures, and it helps you understand your reporting requirements. You can use the link on the slide to visit the website and download a Section 3 plan template. In this slide, we want to focus on the Section 3 self-certification forms. These useful tools help you uncover if workers or subcontracting businesses meet the income thresholds required. HUD offers also a business registry. This registry allows you to register yourself as a Section 3 business. The registry also has a tool that helps serve folks looking for Section 3 business databases. We will now turn our attention to minority and women-owned business compliance. There are various regulations that call for the inclusion of minorities and women business enterprises. 2 CFR 200.321, as well as Executive Orders 11625, 12138, and 12432 establish the participation of MWBE firms, which seek to ensure that when possible, contracts and other economic opportunities funded in whole or in part with federal housing and community development assistance are directed to minority business enterprises and women business enterprises. The Department of Housing has established an MWBE policy guide. This is available on the website in both English and Spanish. You can access those documents using the link on the slide. Let's look at what a minority business enterprise is. An MBE is defined as a business which is at least 51% owned, operated, and controlled on a daily basis by one or more American citizens of the following ethnic minority and/or gender and/or military veteran classifications: African American, Asian American, Hispanic American, Native American, Hasidic Jew, persons with disabilities, and other individuals who can prove social and economic disadvantage. Women Business Enterprises, or WBEs, are businesses that are at least 51% owned and controlled by one or more women. The owners must be U.S. citizens or legal resident aliens, whose business formation and principal place of business are here in the U.S. or its territories, and whose management and daily operation is controlled by women. The MWBE Policy Guide will identify that there are goals which apply to professional services, purchasing supplies, and construction contracting. There is a total of 20% minimum participation goal. This 20% is comprised of 10% for women-owned businesses and 10% for minority-owned businesses. Contractors are expected to perform good faith efforts for contracting, subcontracting, and purchasing opportunities of $10,000 or more during the life of the contract. The Department of Housing has also created various forms for helping maintain compliance with MWBE. One of those is the MWBE Utilization Plan. This document template allows contractors or subrecipients to identify how they plan on being in compliance with these contracting goals. There is also a waiver form. This document allows contractors or subrecipients to identify if they meet the requirements to waive their goals for MWBE. Let's look at the MWBE Utilization Plan. This tool helps you compile data for your subcontracting. It helps you identify what needs you may have. It helps hold discussions on creating supplier and contractor listings, and it provides awareness of meeting the goal for the contract and tracking. You can use the link on the slide to go to the website and download the plan template. Let's review how you should complete your MWBE Utilization Plan. The Department of Housing Utilization Plan template can be used throughout the life cycle of your contract. Completing the plan is pretty easy. You should read the general instructions in row 3 and complete sections A, B, and F from the document. Complete the information requested in the yellow cells. When we talk about certified minority or women-owned businesses, we are referring to those who have filed applications with federal entities such as SBA and others that you see here on the slide. Businesses who are certified can provide proof of completing an application process to be officially recognized as a certified minority or women-owned business. If you are registered as an MWBE, you should provide your valid certificate or other evidence in response to this RFP. In this section, we will be discussing how to complete your efforts and quarterly reporting. In order for you to report your efforts, the Department of Housing provides a tool. This tool helps you document and identify how often you are seeking interactions with Section 3 businesses and MWBE businesses. The quarterly reporting form allows for you to share and report your data with the Department of Housing. This allows the agency to fulfill oversight responsibilities and monitor the progress throughout the year. The Department of Housing's quarterly reporting form allows for the user to capture multiple compliance areas all in one Excel form. Section 3 data is collected. MWBE data is collected as well. FHEO information is also documented within the report. And finally, for those who have construction projects, there is a report for Davis-Bacon Unfound Workers Efforts Reporting. Awarded contractors will be responsible for reporting 4 times a year, on April 5th, July 5th, October 5th, and January 5th. This ensures that you are meeting benchmarks and documenting your efforts. The quarterly reporting template is also available on the Department of Housing website. Let's briefly discuss FHEO. Your RFP package will also contain a model contract which outlines fair housing and equal opportunity areas of compliance. Contractors are responsible for ensuring compliance with federal civil rights and fair housing through their contractors, subcontractors, and so forth, ensuring that all necessary efforts are being made. The Fair Housing Act and Sections 109 and 504 prohibit discrimination against the following protected classes of people: race, color, national origin, religion, sex, age, familial status, disability, gender identity, and sexual orientation. The Fair Housing Act is part of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. There are many executive orders, laws, and statutes that govern the non-discrimination of protected classes to ensure equal opportunity for individuals in accessing federally funded programs. Equal opportunity is afforded to protected classes through a number of these federal laws and executive orders. The Department of Housing has published policy documents attending FHEO as well as Language Access Plan. These policies must be implemented by contractors and subrecipients. They are publicly available online in both English and Spanish. You are encouraged to click on the links and access the resources available. As a recipient of HUD financial assistance, the Department of Housing must ensure that all programs affirmatively further access to fair housing and that the programs provide equal opportunity for participation and employment. Reasonable accommodations are changes made to policies, practices, services, and structures, or modifications to afford equal opportunity to individuals with disabilities. The costs associated with providing reasonable accommodations and modifications are to be incurred by programs receiving federal funding. HUD contemplates these additional costs as necessary to ensure that the programs and activities it funds do not discriminate against people with disabilities. The slide contains a link for you to access the reasonable accommodation page on the Department of Housing website. Limited English proficiency refers to a person's limited ability to read, write, speak, or understand English. Due to Puerto Rico's high Spanish-speaking population, all entities and contractors using the CDBG-DR funding must seek to ensure that both a person's limited ability to read, write, speak, or understand English or Spanish will not place them at a disadvantage in the participation of programs. Let's briefly discuss some common, frequently asked questions. Can a business be both Section 3 and MWBE? The answer is yes. A business or a contractor can be both because these compliance areas are actually separate. Section 3 identifies the level of incomes to determine the status. MWBE uses race and gender information to qualify a business. If I am not planning on subcontracting, do I still need to complete documents? The answer is yes. You should still submit your MWBE utilization plan, the documentation of efforts template, and your quarterly reports. If Section 3 doesn't apply to my contract, do I still have to complete the quarterly report? The answer is yes. You will have to complete the MWBE portion of the report and the portion of the report that attends to FHEO. If I'm either an MBE or WBE, do I fulfill the total goals? You may have safe harbor for one of the goals for MWBE participation of 10%, but you will still have an additional 10% goal to show good faith efforts for any subcontracting or purchasing you perform with the CDBG-DR and CDBG-MIT funding. What happens if I don't fulfill the goals before the end of my contract? All awarded contractors should perform and document their efforts. The Department of Housing has developed templates discussed in this presentation that help you complete the exercise. You can submit a waiver before the end of your contract for approval. This waiver request should be submitted with the efforts and justification as appropriate. Thank you for attending today's training. We hope you found the material helpful. Please remember to direct all your questions through the established protocols for this procurement. Thank you to the procurement team for allowing us to present this material. I will stop sharing the presentation so you can continue with the session.
Well, everyone, thank you for being part of this pre-proposal meeting today. We would like to wish you a good day. Bye-bye.